welcome to Railing Ahead, and hopefully you've all got 2 tickets because that will help you understand, there you go, what this project is good, what this project is all about. So Railing Ahead has been going for about 18 months. We have identified some key priorities. These priorities are listed in terms of outcomes, so efficient freight connections to a choice of ports. And then we also have actions. So for example, having this outcome leads to build the transcontinental rail link is the action. Same with passenger, our priorities there are 20-minute peak service, 40-minute off-peak service, Bendigo to Melbourne, daily and half-daily trips between Swan Hill and Echuca down to Bendigo. This requires a range of upgrades. Part of that includes multi-million-dollar upgrades like a dual track kind to Bendigo. It also includes some smaller scale activities like upgrading signalling systems from Bendigo so that you can have more than one train on the line between Swan Hill and Bendigo or Echuca and Bendigo. So we've done a lot of work to get to these priorities. Just moving along, here's what we've been doing. For starters, there's been a Railing Ahead coordination group. They've been going for 18 months. So some of the things that we've been doing in the past 18 months are having input into the Victorian Freight and Logistics Plan. Now, as Railing Ahead, one of the things we do is develop one regional voice. So to do that, that's how we've informed the Freight and Logistics Plan for the next several years. We've also had some meetings with regional stakeholders to develop that, what is our regional voice. We need to continue to do that as well. We've also had briefings with key decision makers. So that includes briefings up to the Minister, meetings with the Minister for Transport, as well as executives within the key decision making for passenger, as well as for freight. We've also met with some of the key transport operators as well. Now, the Murray Basin Freight Study is a $300,000 study that includes parts of New South Wales, South Australia and Victoria in identifying for the next 30 years the future freight demand for the Murray Basin and the infrastructure needs. So that will help inform Railing Ahead. And for example, we know in the region there's several million tonnes of mineral sands yet to be developed in the region, and transporting those, John, will be a challenge for us that we need to be on the front foot through Railing Ahead to move that forward. We're also really actively linked with Central Murray Transport Forum.
It's broken up into a number of working parties now. One of those is specifically targeting rail efficiencies, both passenger and freight. The first project that's going to come out of that working group is around the enhancement or the further development of existing bulk handling facilities. So we have Menangatang is the second largest grain port in Victoria, and we're looking to further develop that. Land isn't a problem in places like Menangatang. We're talking about Demosa, where there's a number of highways that cross at the Demosa grain handling facility. So having more commodities handled at these particular large inland ports is the way to actually create greater efficiencies, and then that can target the investment into the local road network to ensure that all of that freight is funneled in the correct direction. So we're in the process of putting together a brief to have that small study done. We've had a bit of a chat to our colleague from RDV about potential funding sources to have that progressed. We've also got a working group talking about the region's highways, so that those two projects are intrinsically linked, if you like, the major highway upgrades and the enhancement of bulk handling facilities in the region. Also looking at potentially separation of passenger and rail systems so that it can create greater efficiencies in the passenger network.
Now, regional growth plans, we've also had some input there as well in terms of the opportunities to just understand the population growth and therefore the efficient transport needs that are going to be required. So just moving right along to the next station, fast facts. Yeah, sure. I'll stand here.
Just some facts around rail, and there's always a story about how more efficient it is and how much it can move from a bulk handling perspective. But when you start talking about people, we're talking about 70,000 more people over the next 20 odd years in this region. So the efficient movement of those is critical. Every freight train equates to about between 70 and 100 large road transport movements. And the contributing factor to greenhouse gases is about 12.1% from the transport network, and about 1% of that is by rail. So that stacks up in itself. They're suggesting that the freight task will double every 7 years. And they're expecting train patronage, because of that growth in this particular region, to increase by about 57%. Yeah. Interestingly, coming from Swan Hill, whilst the patronage was increasing, they actually dropped a carriage off our service, which is pretty handy. We're not blaming anybody, we said that at the start of the day. So, but obviously carbon emissions from this dropped by about 40% per kilometre if a lot of those movements are placed onto rail. So it stacks up, obviously, statistically, that improvements in the rail system improves the total quality of life for everybody in the region. So later on today, hopefully, if people would like to come back and talk to us about railing ahead, what we're after is the people to get involved. Come with your stories, whether they're horror stories or good stories, whatever they may be, and options and plans to assist in enhancing the current rail infrastructure that we have in this part of the world. But obviously, the Central Murray Transport Forum in our region actually crosses over into New South Wales, so it has a fair sort of footprint across southeastern Australia. And any information that can be provided to assist those working parties that fall out of the Central Murray Transport Forum would be greatly received.
This is basically a look at our future. Do we want a system where we're jammed in like sardines on a train going from Bendigo to Melbourne, or do we want a system that's fast, efficient, that's taking all the emissions off the road, taking all the road traffic, and actually enabling us to connect to the ports and the regional cities? So that to us is very important, that we don't get clogged up like sardines in a can, and we actually move to a more efficient future. And even John over there getting on late, we'll be able to take efficiencies out of him getting on the train as well.
That helps us go, what is the whole point of railing ahead? So this is your future if you do nothing. And this is why we know that there are some givens. The population will increase. We have a strong economy, and to grow that economy, part of that is efficient freight movement. So this is the point of railing ahead, really.
Our region also has an advantage. If you look at the map over there, the bulk of the state's rail network is in our part of the region.
Yeah, so... Yeah.
So invariably it doesn't have to travel through Melbourne to get to the port. So Melbourne is its destination, or Geelong is its destination. So it's not actually going through that metropolitan bottleneck to get out the other side. We can have trains coming from Mildura that are over 1.2 kilometres long, whereas you come from the other side of that line out towards Gippsland, and it's I think they're about 700 metres in length. So there are some natural advantages to this region from a rail perspective.
So part of this developing one regional voice is making sure that we're talking to all of our stakeholders to build that regional voice. We've got some good opportunities in the next 12 months to influence things like train timetables and train network development. So part of that is understanding what are all of our needs.